The wolf crown bit the king before the servant girl could swear. One heartbeat earlier, Mara was on her knees before the black velvet altar, her bleeding fingers forced toward the ancient silver crown while the entire court waited for her to burn. Moonlight poured through the glass ceiling of the loyalty hall, turning every wolf-shaped point of the crown into a blade. Nobles leaned forward. Guards tightened their hands around their spears. The oath ledger lay open beside the altar, ready to record another servant's treason. King Maelor Veyr stood above her, one hand gripping her wrist. "Say it," he commanded. "Say I am your rightful king." Mara's blood slid down her palm and touched the crown's silver teeth. Beneath the altar, something growled. The sound was low, metallic, and alive. The hall went still. Maelor's grip tightened. "Swear." But the crown moved first. Its silver points unfolded like claws. Its circlet stretched, cracked, and reshaped into a spine. The oath jewels split apart, spilling moon-white fire over the altar. Before anyone could move, the ancient wolf crown transformed into a living silver beast and lunged at Maelor's hand. Its jaws closed around the king's flesh. Blood struck the marble. The court screamed. Mara stayed frozen on her knees, staring at the impossible creature that had risen from the crown. It was no larger than a hunting wolf, but every inch of it burned with royal wrath. Silver fur, moon-metal bones, eyes like old judgment. It had not awakened to punish her. It had awakened because of her. 12 years of silence cracked inside Mara's chest. She was supposed to be no one, just Mara. A palace servant with ash on her sleeves, cracked hands, and no family name worth writing in the ledgers. She cleaned the throne room before dawn. She carried wine to nobles who never looked at her face. She slept in the lower servant wing where the walls were cold and the rules were simple. Keep your head down. Never ask about the old royal nursery, and never speak the name Aurelia, especially not in dreams. But Mara dreamed it often. A burning nursery, a woman's arms around her, a silver wolf charm pressed into her palm, a man's voice saying, "No royal daughters survive tonight." Then another voice, softer and shaking, "Forget your name, little princess. Live first, remember later." She had learned to bury those dreams beneath work, hunger, and silence. Tonight, the court dug them up. The crown oath ceremony was meant to renew every soul's loyalty to Maelor Veyr. Every noble, guard, servant, and wolf-blooded house had to kneel before the wolf crown and swear that Maelor was rightful king by blood, conquest, and moon witness. False oaths burned. Treasonous blood blackened. Those who refused disappeared before morning. Mara had not been listed among the accused. That was why her blood went cold when Maelor pointed straight at her. "Bring the girl from the servant line." Lord Captain Oren seized her arms so hard the wine tray fell from her hands and shattered across the floor. Nobles turned to watch with bored cruelty. A few smiled. Servants kept their eyes down, because pity was dangerous when kings were hungry. Mara was dragged into the center aisle. At the far end of the hall, Maelor sat on the wolf throne, heavy in black fur and stolen rings. His silver beard trimmed neatly around a mouth that had signed too many deaths. Beside him stood High Chancellor Veyrhold with the oath ledger. Lady Seraphine, the court's perfect future queen, watched in white silk and moon pearls, her beauty polished enough to hide the poison beneath it. But Mara's eyes went to Wolf Prince Cassian Veyr. He stood at the base of the throne in black armor, tall, dark-haired, and dangerously still. The court called him the Silent Fang because he rarely spoke unless words could cut. Behind him loomed his wolf shadow, huge, pale, and wrong. Blue frost chains wrapped around its muzzle and ribs. Every time the court spoke of true blood, the beast trembled like something inside it was trying to break free. When Oren forced Mara forward, Cassian's wolf shadow lifted its head. Mara saw it. So did Cassian. So did Maelor. The false king's smile sharpened. "This servant was seen near the sealed royal nursery 3 nights ago," Maelor announced. A cold murmur moved through the hall. The sealed nursery had been forbidden since the Moonfire Rebellion the night Maelor claimed the old royal line died. No servant cleaned it. No guard entered it alone. No noble spoke of it without looking over his shoulder. Mara had gone there because she heard crying through the wall. Not a child's cry. A memory's. Inside, she had found a burned cradle, a cracked wolf mosaic, and a loose stone beneath the window. Under it lay a tiny silver charm shaped like a wolf curled around a sun. The moment she touched it, the old scar beneath her left sleeve split open and bled. By morning the charm was gone, and now Maelor knew. Traitors often return to dead rooms, he said. Mara shook her head. I am no traitor, a noblewoman laughed. She speaks as if her word matters. Oren shoved Mara down before the crown altar. Her knees struck marble. Her injured hand left a red mark on the floor. Maelor descended the throne steps. Cassian moved one step. Only one. But the hall felt it. Maelor looked at him. Do not interfere, nephew. Cassian's eyes remained on Mara's bleeding wrist. Why does the crown answer her before she touches it? The question cut through the hall. Mara froze. The wolf crown was trembling on the altar. Its silver wolf face had turned. Not toward Mara, toward Maelor. The crown's eyes opened. Moon white. Hungry. Maelor's face hardened. The crown answers treason. Cassian's voice was quiet. Then why is it looking at you? No one breathed. For the first time all night, Maelor's mask slipped. Only for a moment. But Mara saw recognition flash in his eyes when he looked at her wrist. He knew the scar. He knew her. You should have stayed forgotten, Maelor whispered. Then he seized her bleeding hand and slammed it onto the crown. Swear. Silver teeth cut into Mara's skin. A memory exploded behind her eyes. A woman screaming her name. A nursery burning. Maelor's younger face streaked with blood. A maid wrapping a child in servant cloth. A silver bracelet cut from a tiny wrist. The same command over and over. Forget your name, forget your blood. Forget or die. The crown screamed. Moon-white fire burst from the altar. The oath ledger flew open. Every candle died. The wolf crown rose, twisted, unfolded, and became a silver wolf of living metal and old blood. Maelor stumbled back. Too late. The silver wolf lunged and sank its jaws into his hand. His blood splashed across the oath ledger. The black ink burned away. Hidden words rose beneath. Maelor Veyr, false king. Crown oath void. The loyalty hall erupted. Guards rushed forward. Cassian drew his sword. No one touched her. The frost chains around his wolf shadow cracked. Lady Seraphine stepped back, face drained of color. Chancellor Varric dropped the oath ledger as if it had turned venomous. Lord Captain Oren released Mara and stumbled away from the altar, staring at her blood like it might name him next. The silver wolf released Maelor and turned to Mara. For one terrible breath, she thought it would bite her too. Instead, it bowed. Not gently. Like a war beast kneeling before the last command it still honored. Then it pressed its cold metal muzzle to the scar beneath Mara's sleeve. Silver light poured from her wrist. Another line burned across the oath ledger. Mara is not her name. Mara's breath stopped. The hall blurred. The name rose inside her, breaking through 12 years of ash, fear, servant gray, and stolen silence. Aurelia. Princess Aurelia Veyr. The royal daughter Maelor had failed to kill. Maelor clutched his bleeding hand, rage twisting his face. Kill her. The silver wolf bared its teeth. The black wolf throne growled behind him. Not a metaphor. Not magic in the distance. The throne itself cracked beneath the false king's shadow. Cassian stared at Mara as if the secret that had haunted his wolf for years had finally taken human form. His cursed wolf shadow dragged itself forward, frost chains breaking link by link. Then the wolf crown spoke in a voice older than the throne. The blood kneeling before me is the blood I was made to guard. The marble floor split beneath the altar. From under the loyalty hall came the sound of a child crying. Mara turned toward the sealed royal nursery doors. They were opening by themselves, and every wolf shadow in the court lowered its head. The sealed royal nursery doors opened by themselves. Every wolf shadow in the court lowered its head. Not to King Maelor, not to the throne, to the crying behind the doors. The sound moved through the loyalty hall like a blade drawn across bone. A child's sob, thin and broken, rising from a room that had been sealed for 12 years. Nobles staggered back from the aisle. Guards stopped mid-step with swords half raised. Lady Seraphine gripped the pearl chain at her throat so tightly it snapped, scattering white beads across the black marble like teeth. Mara, no. Aurelia could not move. The name inside her had not settled yet. It burned through her blood like moonfire, too bright, too impossible. Princess Aurelia Veyr, the dead royal daughter, the name forbidden in her own dreams. The silver wolf crown stood between her and Maelor, its metal hackles raised, its jaws stained with the false king's blood. Maelor clutched his bitten hand against his chest. Blood ran between his fingers and dripped onto the throne steps, where the marble hissed as if rejecting it. "Close those doors," he ordered. No one moved. The nursery cried again. Cassian stepped forward, sword in hand, his chained wolf shadow dragging itself behind him. The blue frost around the beast's muzzle had cracked, but not broken. Its silver eyes fixed on Aurelia's wrist scar with a hunger that was not violence. Recognition. Maelor saw it and snarled, "Nephew! Stand down!" Cassian did not look at him. "Why does the royal nursery cry for a servant?" "She is not a servant," the wolf crown said. The hall trembled. Chancellor Veyr fell to his knees beside the oath ledger, trying to close it, but the pages burned beneath his hands. More hidden lines rose in silver fire. Loyalty oath corrupted. Royal blood suppressed. Nursery witness sealed. Aurelia stared at the words. Nursery witness. Maelor's face changed. That was enough. Cassian moved first. He crossed the hall in 3 strides, but before he reached the nursery doors, his wolf shadow convulsed. The frost chains around its muzzle tightened violently. Cassian dropped to one knee with a harsh breath, one hand pressed to his chest. Lady Seraphine rushed toward him. "My prince!" His wolf shadow snarled so viciously she stopped. Aurelia saw the curse then. It was not simply binding his wolf. It was tied to the nursery doors. Every step Cassian took toward the truth hurt him. Maelor's mouth curved. "You see? The old rebellion curse still poisons him. He cannot approach that room without losing control." The silver wolf crown turned its head toward Aurelia. "Ask why." The words did not sound aloud. They entered her blood. Aurelia forced herself to stand. Her knees shook, but she stood. "Why?" she asked. The court went silent again. No servant asked why. Not in the loyalty hall. Not before a king. Maelor's eyes narrowed. "Careful, girl." The silver wolf bared its teeth. Aurelia looked at Cassian, still kneeling, jaw clenched against pain. "Why does the nursery hurt his wolf?" Cassian lifted his eyes to hers. For the first time, his cold mask broke. "I do not know," he said. The honesty struck harder than pride would have. Maelor stepped down from the throne. "Because your dead bloodline cursed him. Because the night your family burned, their treason poisoned every loyal wolf left in this palace." The nursery doors groaned wider. Inside, darkness breathed. Aurelia looked into that black room and saw flashes instead of walls. A cradle burning. A woman running with a child in her arms. Maelor's sword wet with blood. A silver wolf leaping between them and being struck down. The old scar beneath her sleeve opened fully. Blood slid down her wrist. The silver wolf crown pressed against her leg, guiding her toward the doors. Cassian struggled to stand. "Do not go in alone," Maelor laughed. "Listen to him. At least one Veyr still has sense." Aurelia turned toward the false king. 12 years of training screamed at her to lower her eyes. She did not. "You are afraid of what is inside." Maelor's face went still. Lady Seraphine whispered, "Majesty." "Silence," he snapped. Aurelia walked toward the nursery. The first step made every wolf shadow in the hall shiver. The second made the oath ledger flip backward through its pages. The third made the black wolf throne crack again, a deep fracture splitting down the center behind Maelor's seat. Cassian forced himself upright and followed. Pain hit him immediately. His wolf shadow snarled, collapsed, then dragged itself forward inch by inch. Blue frost chains bit into its muzzle until silver blood smoked from its jaws. Aurelia stopped. "You cannot." Cassian's voice was rough. "I have spent years unable to walk toward the truth. I will not stop now." The words entered her chest and stayed there. Not romance. Not yet. But a dangerous kind of trust. They reached the nursery threshold together. The room beyond was not empty. It was untouched. A burned cradle stood beneath a broken moon window. Ash lay thick across the floor, undisturbed by 12 years of servants forbidden to clean. Wolf mosaics covered the walls, each silver eye scratched out. Above the cradle hung a torn banner bearing the old royal sigil. A crowned wolf curled around a sun. Aurelia knew the charm before she saw it. The tiny silver wolf and sun charm she had found 3 nights earlier now floated above the cradle, turning slowly in midair, stained with her blood. Beneath it, something cried. Aurelia stepped inside. The moment her foot crossed the threshold, the room slammed shut behind her and Cassian. The court vanished. Darkness swallowed them. Outside, Maelor shouted orders, but his voice sounded distant, muffled by old magic. Inside the nursery, the crying stopped. Cassian lifted his sword. His wolf shadow stood beside him now, trembling under its frost chains. But inside the nursery it seemed less afraid of Aurelia than of what it might remember. The silver wolf crown entered last, slipping through the door as if the sealed room belonged to it. Then the burned cradle moved. A hidden compartment opened beneath it. Inside lay a small bundle wrapped in royal cloth. Aurelia's breath caught. Not a child. A memory preserved in blood and moon silver. The bundle unfolded by itself, revealing a baby's bracelet, a torn piece of queen's veil, and a blackened strip of parchment. Cassian read the first line aloud, voice low. If Aurelia lives, the crown must bite the hand that claims her dead. Aurelia's vision blurred. Queen Elowen. Her mother. The name came with the certainty of pain. The parchment burned brighter, revealing more words. My daughter, if this room wakes, then Maelor sits on your father's throne. Trust the crown before the court. Trust the wolf that cannot speak before the man who speaks too cleanly. And trust no oath made while Cassian's wolf is muzzled. Cassian went still. His wolf shadow whimpered. Aurelia looked at him. Your wolf knows this room. Cassian's face tightened. I was told I was never here. The nursery answered. The wall behind the cradle cracked open, revealing a memory in silver fire. A young Cassian, no more than 10, standing in the nursery doorway on the night of moonfire. His wolf shadow, still small but fierce, lunging at Maelor as the king's brother raised a blade over the cradle. Maelor turning, not killing Cassian, but pressing a black oath ring against the child's wolf and commanding, attack anyone who speaks the princess's true name. Aurelia's blood went cold. Cassian's wolf shadow roared. The frost muzzle cracked halfway open. Cassian staggered as memory returned. I saw him. Aurelia whispered. You tried to save me. The room shook. Outside, Maelor screamed, Break the door! Inside, the parchment burned to its final line. The princess was not hidden to make her weak. She was hidden so the crown would have one true blood left to answer. The floor beneath the cradle opened. A stairway descended into blackness. From below came the sound of many small charms ringing together. Cassian gripped his sword. What is beneath the nursery? The silver wolf crown looked down the stair. Then it spoke. The daughters Maelor erased before they could inherit. Aurelia's heart stopped. Not just her. Others. The stairway filled with moon-white light. From below, a girl's voice whispered, Sister? Aurelia took one step toward the darkness. Cassian moved beside her despite the pain. Behind the sealed nursery door, Maelor's guards began hacking at the wood. The silver wolf crown bared its teeth toward the stair. Aurelia lifted her bleeding wrist. Then we open it. The nursery floor split wider. And beneath the palace, the forgotten princesses began to wake. The sound was not a scream. That made it worse. It was soft, thin, layered with too many young voices, like children whispering from behind walls they had long ago stopped trying to break. The nursery stairway filled with moon-white light, and from somewhere below, small silver charms began ringing together. Wolf charms, sun charms, broken bracelets, baby anklets, tokens of daughters erased before their names could become dangerous. Aurelia stood at the edge of the open stair with blood sliding down her wrist. Princess. The word still felt too large for her body. For 12 years, she had survived as Mara, the servant. Mara, who polished the floor beneath Maelor's stolen throne. Mara, who carried wine with lowered eyes. Mara, who never asked why a sealed nursery cried behind stone. Now the crown had bitten the king. The nursery had opened, and a voice from below had called her sister. Cassian stood beside her, one hand braced against the cracked wall, sword in the other. The frost chains around his wolf shadow's muzzle had broken halfway, but the curse still dug into the beast's ribs. Every time Aurelia's true name pulsed through the room, Cassian's wolf trembled as if fighting the command Maelor had buried in it years ago. Attack anyone who speaks the princess's true name. Aurelia looked at him. You should stay here. Cassian's mouth tightened. No, the curse was made to keep me from this room. His eyes held hers, dark and fierce. That means this room is exactly where I belong. Behind them, Maelor's guards struck the nursery doors again. Wood groaned. The silver wolf crown turned toward the sealed door and bared its metal teeth. Moon-white fire crawled over its back. Aurelia heard Maelor outside, voice sharp with rage. Break it open. Kill the girl before the crown names her again. The words should have frightened her. They did. But something colder moved beneath the fear. Recognition. He was no longer trying to test her. He was trying to stop proof. Aurelia stepped onto the first stair. The moment her foot touched stone, the nursery wall behind her filled with memory. A woman in a torn queen's veil running through smoke with a child in her arms. Maelor's soldiers dragging girls from hidden rooms. A priestess marking royal daughter's wrists with black ash. The oath ledger pages burning, rewritten, sealed. A line of small silver bracelets dropped into darkness. Cassian saw it too. His face went hard. He did not kill only your parents. He did not kill only your parents. Aurelia descended. The stairway twisted down beneath the nursery, far deeper than any room should have gone. The air smelled of old stone, dried flowers, and extinguished fire. Moonlight came from no window, yet it glowed along the walls, illuminating carvings of girls wearing tiny crowns while wolves stood beside them. But every carved crown had been scratched away. At the bottom stood a round chamber with 12 alcoves. 11 were sealed. 1 was open. In the open alcove lay a small stone bed covered in dust. Above it hung a silver name charm, Aurelia Veyr. Aurelia stopped breathing. Cassian stood behind her, silent. The bed was not a grave, not fully. It had been prepared for a body that never arrived. Her body, they made a tomb for me, she whispered. The silver wolf crown walked to the bed and placed one paw on the stone. The name charm began to burn. Then the other alcoves answered. One by one, names appeared above the sealed beds. Maelor Veyr, Maelor Veyr, Aurelia Veyr, Sabrina Veyr, Evelis Veyr, Thyra Veyr, Aurelia Veyr. Not all sisters. Some cousins, some royal wards, some daughters of branch lines. Every girl with enough Veyr blood to challenge Maelor's claim. Cassian's voice was rough. Where are they? The chamber answered with a child's whisper. Not dead. Aurelia turned toward the far wall. A crack of moonlight split through the stone. Behind it, something moved. Cassian stepped forward and drove his sword into the crack. The silver wolf crown lunged beside him, claws tearing stone. Aurelia pressed her bleeding wrist to the wall, and the old scar flared. The wall opened. Behind it was not a tomb. It was a prison nursery. 7 girls sat behind moonbone bars. The youngest looked 5, the oldest perhaps 15. Their hair ranged from dark brown to pale gold, but every one of them had the same wolf and son scar burned across the left wrist. Some wore servant gray, some wore sleeping robes too small for them. One held a wooden wolf with one broken ear. Another had silver thread sewn across her lips, not enough to silence breath, but enough to make speech painful. The oldest girl stood, her eyes fixed on Aurelia. You came back, she said. Aurelia's throat closed. I did not know you existed. The girl looked past her to Cassian and stepped back sharply. Veyr Prince. Cassian lowered his sword immediately. I will not touch you. The girl's eyes narrowed. That is what men say before they choose who we belong to. Cassian flinched. Good, Aurelia thought before she could stop herself. Truth should strike. Aurelia moved closer to the bars. What is your name? The girl hesitated. Names were dangerous here. Aurelia understood, so she gave hers first. My name is Aurelia Veyr. They called me Mara. They told me I was no one. The girl stared. The youngest began to cry. The oldest slowly lifted her left wrist. Lysera. The bars shook. Aurelia looked at the lock. No key. Only a shallow groove shaped like a wolf's tooth and a drop of blood. Cassian saw it. Do not bleed again. Aurelia glanced at him. The old Mara in her almost obeyed. Princess Aurelia did not. I decide what my blood opens. She pressed her bleeding wrist to the lock. The moonbone bars cracked. Lysara stepped out. The moment she crossed the threshold, the oath ledger in the hall above screamed. Not with a human voice. With paper, ink, and old lies burning. Outside the nursery, Maelor shouted, "Do not let them out!" Lysara turned toward the sound. Her face changed. Not fear. Hatred remembered. "He came below every winter moon," she said. "He made us kneel before a covered crown and swear we were dead." Aurelia felt cold spread through her body. Cassian's wolf shadow growled, frost breaking from its muzzle in sharp pieces. The other girls rose behind the bars. Aurelia opened the next cell. Then the next. Each girl gave her name first. Melina, Auriel, Sabrina, Evelis, Thyra, Aurena. With every name, the palace shook harder. Above them, the loyalty hall was no longer screaming in panic. It was screaming because the court could see the names burning across the moon-glass ceiling. The daughters Maelor had erased were alive. The silver wolf crown stood before the freed girls and lowered its head. Not to command them, to witness them. Then the chamber floor split open beneath the central circle. A black iron chest rose from below. Cassian stepped between Aurelia and the chest. "Wait." The silver wolf crown snarled at the chest, not at him. The lock opened by itself. Inside lay 7 severed wolf shadow collars, a bundle of royal birth records, and a blood-stained decree bearing Maelor's seal. Aurelia picked up the decree. Her hands shook as she read. "All female heirs of the old royal line are to be recorded dead, renamed under servant or ward law, and held until the wolf crown submits to Maelor Veyr's blood." Beneath the decree was another line, written in a different hand. "If the crown refuses, feed it their names one by one." Lysara whispered, "He was not hiding us." Cassian's voice turned deadly. "He was using you to starve the crown." The silver wolf crown threw back its head and howled. The sound tore upward through the nursery, through the loyalty hall, through every sealed oath in the palace. Above, the black wolf throne cracked again. Aurelia looked at the freed girls. Then toward the stair. "We go up." Cassian stepped beside her. "Maelor will have every guard waiting." Aurelia looked down at the decree in her hand, then at the girls who had spent years beneath stone because their blood made a false king afraid. "Good," she said. The words surprised even her, but she did not take it back. The servant girl who had learned invisibility had died on the altar when the crown bit the king. Aurelia Veyr lifted her bleeding wrist. The silver wolf crown came to her side. The forgotten princesses followed. When they reached the nursery door, the wood burst outward before the guards could strike again. Aurelia stepped into the loyalty hall with 7 living royal girls behind her. The court went silent. Maelor stood at the base of the throne, blood dripping from his bandaged hand. For the first time, the false king looked at the girl he had called servant, and saw the one thing he had never managed to kill, a witness with his crime still breathing behind her. Aurelia stepped into the loyalty hall with 7 living royal girls behind her. The court stopped breathing. No one bowed. No one spoke. They only stared at the children Maelor Veyr had buried while they were still alive. The youngest girl clutched a broken wooden wolf to her chest. Lysara stood beside Aurelia with her chin lifted, thin from years beneath stone, but no longer hiding. Every girl bore the same wolf and son scar on her wrist. Every scar glowed beneath the moon-glass ceiling. The silver wolf crown walked at Aurelia's side in the shape of a living metal wolf, its jaws still stained with Maelor's blood. King Maelor stood at the base of the throne, one hand wrapped in a blood-soaked bandage. His face did not show fear now. That made Aurelia more afraid. A cornered liar was dangerous. A cornered king was worse. Aurelia lifted the blood-stained decree she had taken from the prison nursery. "All female heirs of the old royal line are to be recorded dead," she read, her voice steady enough to frighten even herself. "Renamed under servant or ward law, and held until the wolf crown submits to Maelor Veyr's blood." The words struck the hall like a blade. A murmur spread through the nobles. Too many faces looked down. Too many hands tightened. Too many people had known enough to be afraid. Maelor smiled. "Children can be coached," he said. "Papers can be forged. Blood can be staged. Look at her. 1 hour ago she was a servant girl on her knees. Now she calls herself princess because a cursed relic crawled at her feet." The silver wolf growled. Aurelia felt Lysara's hand brush hers. "Not asking for protection. offering witness. Cassian stepped beside them, sword low, his face cold but his breathing uneven. His wolf shadow stood behind him, huge and pale, half muzzled by blue frost chains. The curse was still alive inside it. Aurelia could see the beast fighting itself whenever her true name moved through the air. Maelor saw it too. His smile sharpened. "Cassian," he said softly. The prince went still. Maelor lifted his bleeding hand and spoke the name like a weapon. "Aurelia Veyr." Cassian's wolf shadow convulsed. The frost chains tightened around its muzzle and ribs. The beast roared in pain, then snapped its head toward Aurelia. Its silver eyes turned wild, no longer recognizing her as witness, only as command. "Attack anyone who speaks the princess's true name." Aurelia's blood went cold. Cassian dropped to one knee, both hands braced against the marble as if holding the curse back through his own bones. "Run!" he forced out. Aurelia did not move. The cursed wolf shadow lunged. The 7 girls screamed. The silver wolf crown threw itself between Aurelia and Cassian's beast. Metal claws struck moonlit marble. Silver fire collided with blue frost. The impact shattered every oath candle in the hall. Maelor shouted over the chaos. "You see? Even my nephew's wolf knows she is dangerous. Kill the false princesses before the curse spreads." Lord Captain Oren raised his sword. Guards surged forward. Aurelia lifted her bleeding wrist. "I call the crown to witness." The silver wolf slammed its paws onto the oath ledger. The floor split open. Moon-white fire raced through the cracks, freezing every sword inches from the girls' bodies. Guards strained, unable to move. The oath ledger flipped open by itself, pages whipping violently until one page stopped beneath Maelor's blood. New words burned across it. Maelor Veyr, false king, royal daughters, recorded dead by fraud. Wolf crown, starved by hidden blood. The hall erupted. Maelor's smile vanished. Cassian's wolf shadow, still trapped in the command, dragged itself forward again, trying to reach Aurelia, while Cassian fought it, with a strangled sound of pain. Aurelia looked at him. He could have let the curse obey. He could have hidden behind it. Instead, he was breaking himself, trying to stop his own wolf from harming her. That mattered. The wolf crown turned toward Cassian's beast and bit through one frost chain. The cursed wolf screamed. Cassian gasped. A memory burst across the moon-glass ceiling. The court saw it. A young Cassian standing in the nursery doorway 12 years ago. Maelor raising a bloody blade over a cradle. Cassian's small wolf shadow lunging to protect the hidden child. Maelor pressing a black oath ring into the young wolf's muzzle and commanding it forever. Attack the true royal name before it wakes. The memory shattered. The court stared at Maelor. Cassian slowly lifted his head. "You made my wolf a weapon against a child." Maelor backed toward the throne. "I saved the kingdom from divided blood." Aurelia stepped forward. "No," she said. "You saved your stolen crown from girls who could inherit." The black wolf throne growled. This time, everyone heard it. The throne cracked from base to crown. Stone jaws opened beneath Maelor's shadow, revealing names carved inside the dark. Royal nurses, midwives, guards, daughters, witnesses. All swallowed by the throne so Maelor could sit above them clean. A woman's voice rose from the stone. "Maelor killed the king before the nursery burned." Another voice followed. "He wore his brother's ring to sign the death orders." Another, "The queen hid Aurelia beneath servant cloth." Maelor screamed, "Silence!" The throne did not obey. The silver wolf crown stood before Aurelia and lowered its head. Cassian's wolf shadow broke another frost chain and collapsed beside her feet, trembling but no longer lunging. Then the throne spoke in a voice older than the hall. "The blood he buried has returned." Aurelia turned toward Maelor. The 7 girls stood behind her. The crown stood beside her. Cassian knelt at her side, wounded by his own curse, but still fighting it. Maelor looked at the guards. "Kill them," he whispered. No one moved. So Maelor reached for the black oath ring on his finger. Cassian saw it too late. The false king twisted the ring. Every wolf shadow in the hall screamed. Blue frost erupted from the floor and wrapped around the 7 girls' throats. Aurelia lunged toward them. The wolf crown howled. Maelor's voice rang through the loyalty hall. "If the crown wants royal blood," he said, "then let it choke on all of them." The moon-glass ceiling shattered, and beneath the throne, the buried witnesses began clawing their way out. Blue frost wrapped around the 7 girls' throats. Aurelia heard them choke before she saw them fall. Lysara dropped to one knee, both hands clawing at the ice around her neck. The youngest girl collapsed against the marble, the broken wooden wolf slipping from her fingers. The other hidden princesses staggered backward, their wrist scars blazing silver beneath the frost. Maelor stood before the cracked throne with the black oath ring twisted on his finger. His bleeding hand trembled. His eyes did not. "If royal blood wants to return," he said, "let it return silent." Aurelia ran toward the girls. The frost snapped around her own throat before she reached them. Pain stole her breath. The wolf crown lunged at Maelor, but the black oath ring flared. A wall of blue fire slammed the silver wolf back across the hall. It struck the altar and rolled, claws scraping marble, moon metal body sparking. Cassian rose with a roar. His wolf shadow rose with him. One frost chain still held the beast's ribs, but the muzzle had cracked nearly open. Cassian drove his sword into the marble between Maelor and the girls, trying to break the spell through force. The sword shattered. Maelor smiled. "Still protecting the wrong blood, nephew?" Cassian's face went cold. "No." He looked at Aurelia. Then, at the girls choking behind her. "I am protecting the blood you feared." The words struck the hall hard enough to silence even the nobles. Cassian stepped toward Maelor. The oath ring pulsed again, trying to command his wolf shadow. "Attack the true royal name." Cassian stopped. His wolf turned toward Aurelia once more, shaking, fighting, trapped between old command and living choice. Aurelia could not breathe, but she forced herself to stay standing. She looked at Cassian's wolf. Not at Cassian. At the beast Maelor had mutilated into a weapon. The wolf shadow's silver eyes met hers. She lifted her bleeding wrist, not to command it, to offer it proof. The scar on her wrist burned brighter than the frost on her throat. The wolf and sun mark opened like a small moonlit wound. Blood slid down her palm and struck the marble. The throne beneath Maelor cracked wider. From under it, fingers appeared. Not human fingers. Stone-gray hands made of old witness ash, clawing upward from the vault below. Maelor heard the sound and looked down. For the first time, panic crossed his face. The buried witnesses were coming. "Hold them," he ordered the ring. The blue frost tightened. The youngest girl's eyes rolled back. Aurelia's fear snapped into fury. She could not speak, so she did what the crown had taught her. She bled. Aurelia slammed her bleeding hand onto the marble. The wolf crown lifted its head. Cassian's wolf shadow froze. The oath ledger burst open. A line of silver fire shot from Aurelia's blood to the 7 girls, then to the wolf crown, then to Cassian's cursed wolf. The fire did not break the frost. It named it. Black oath ring made from nursery blood. Command: silence female royal heirs. Secondary command: turn Cassian Veyr's wolf against true blood. The court saw the words burn across the floor. Cassian saw them too. His eyes went to the ring on Maelor's hand. "Take it off," he said. Maelor laughed. "You cannot touch it without killing the girls." The buried witnesses clawed higher from beneath the throne. Faces appeared now, a royal nurse with burned cheeks, a guard with a broken spear through his chest, a midwife whose mouth had been sewn shut with silver thread. The nurse lifted her head. Her dead eyes found Aurelia. "Princess." The word did not enter the air. It entered the crown. The wolf crown rose. Its damaged silver body trembled, but it stood. Aurelia understood. The crown could not break the oath ring alone. Cassian could not break it while his wolf was cursed. The girls could not break it while choking. But the witnesses could name the hand that made it. She crawled toward the throne. The frost cut her throat every time she moved. Cassian tried to reach her, but his wolf shadow thrashed, still pulled by the ring. Aurelia shook her head at him. Not yet. She reached the cracked throne. Maelor stepped back. "Do not touch that." Aurelia looked up at him from the floor. Her vision blurred. Her lungs burned. But for the first time, the servant girl inside her did not lower her eyes. She pressed her bleeding wrist to the throne crack. The buried witnesses screamed. The sound exploded through the hall. Memory burst from the throne in silver-black fire. The court saw Maelor in the nursery 12 years ago, forcing the black oath ring into a bowl of royal children's blood. They saw Chancellor Veyr sealing the ledger. They saw Seraphine's father delivering moonbone chains. They saw Cassian as a boy screaming while his wolf was muzzled. They saw Queen Elowen hiding Aurelia under servant cloth before Maelor's blade struck her down. The frost around Aurelia's throat cracked. The 7 girls gasped. Cassian's wolf shadow broke its last muzzle chain. Maelor twisted the ring again. This time, the wolf did not obey. It turned slowly toward him. Cassian stood beside it, breathing hard, eyes full of years of stolen memory. "You used my wolf to guard your lie," he said. Maelor backed away. "I made you survive it." "No," Cassian said. "You made me useful." His wolf shadow lunged. Maelor raised the ring. The wolf crown reached him first. It clamped its jaws around the black oath ring and tore it from his finger. Maelor screamed. The ring hit the marble. Aurelia lifted the broken wooden wolf the youngest girl had dropped and struck the ring with it. The black oath ring split in two. Blue frost shattered across the hall. The 7 girls collapsed, breathing. Cassian's wolf shadow threw back its head and howled for the first time unchained. The buried witnesses rose fully from beneath the throne. Dozens of them, then hundreds. They filled the steps behind Maelor, silent, burned, blood-marked, all staring at the false king who had fed them to his crown. Maelor looked at his guards. No one moved. The throne spoke. Blood has answered. Witness has risen. The false oath is broken. Aurelia pushed herself to her feet. Lysara helped the youngest stand. Cassian moved beside Aurelia, but did not touch her until she reached for his arm. She did, only for balance, only because she chose. Maelor's face twisted with hatred. "You think this makes you queen?" Aurelia looked at the witnesses behind him, then at the 7 girls, then at the crown lying in wolf shape at her feet. "No," she said, voice raw. "It makes you accused." The throne steps split open behind Maelor. A stairway of black stone descended beneath the palace. From below came the sound of chains dragging. The wolf crown turned toward the darkness and spoke one word: trial. Maelor's bloodied face went gray. Cassian looked down the stair. Aurelia did too. The loyalty hall had exposed the lie. But beneath the throne was where the crown had stored the proof. And the false king was no longer being asked to rule. He was being summoned to answer. The stairway beneath the throne opened like a mouth. No one in the loyalty hall moved. Even Maelor did not move. For 12 years, he had ruled from the Black Wolf throne as if it were stone, symbol, inheritance. Now the throne had opened beneath him and called him to trial. The buried witnesses stood behind him in a silent crowd of ash and moonlight. Burned nurses, slaughtered guards, midwives with silver threads still sewn across their mouths. Men and women who had vanished from court records because they had seen the royal nursery burn and lived long enough to become inconvenient. The wolf crown stood in silver beast form at the edge of the open stair. "Trial," it said again. Maelor clutched his bleeding hand to his chest. "I am king." The throne growled. Aurelia stood in front of the 7 freed girls, throat raw, wrist still bleeding, servant dress torn at the hem. She should have been shaking. Part of her was. The old Mara inside her still knew how easily kings destroyed girls who spoke too loudly. But the crown had bitten him. The nursery had opened. The buried witnesses had risen. And Maelor's fear was louder than her own. Cassian stood beside her with his unchained wolf shadow at his back. The beast was no longer muzzled, but it was still wounded. Frost cracks glowing along its ribs. When Maelor looked at it, the wolf bared its teeth. Lady Seraphine tried to step away from the throne. The wolf crown turned its head. She froze. Aurelia looked at her. "You stay." Seraphine's eyes flashed. "I was promised marriage, not judgment." Lysara's voice cut through the hall. "We were promised death." The words landed hard. Cassian looked toward the stair beneath the throne. "What is below?" The buried nurse answered first. "The oath chamber." Chancellor Veyr, still on his knees beside the burned ledger, went gray. Aurelia saw it. "You know it." Veyr's lips trembled. "No living ruler enters the oath chamber unless the crown rejects him." Maelor turned on him. Silence. But the old fear had shifted. Varric looked at the wolf crown, at the witnesses, at Aurelia's bleeding wrist. Then he lowered his head. The chamber holds the first oath, the one no king is allowed to alter. The silver wolf crown stepped onto the first stair. Aurelia understood. This was not a choice the crown would make alone. She looked at Maelor. Walk. He laughed once. You command me now? No, Aurelia said. Witness does. The buried witnesses moved. Not touching him. Not yet. Just stepping closer. Maelor looked at his guards. Defend your king. No sword lifted. Some guards stared at the 7 girls. Some stared at the witnesses. Some stared at the oath ledger, where Maelor's false title still burned in silver letters. Lord Captain Oren slowly lowered his blade. Maelor saw. His face twisted. You kneel to a servant? Oren looked at Aurelia. For the first time, he looked at her face instead of her rank. No, he said. I stand before proof. The wolf crown growled approval. Maelor had no one left to hide behind. He descended. Aurelia followed with Cassian, the 7 girls, the wolf crown, and the witnesses. The court remained above, trapped in stunned silence as the false king was led beneath the throne he had stolen. The oath chamber was narrow and black. Its walls were carved with wolves, but not the obedient wolves of the palace banners. These wolves stood beside crowned children, wounded queens, old kings, servants carrying royal infants, and guards holding doors shut against fire. At the center of the chamber lay a stone basin filled with clear moon water. Above it hung a crown-shaped chain, broken at one link. The wolf crown leapt onto the basin edge. The water turned red. Aurelia saw the night of the rebellion again. This time, not in flashes. In full, King Maelor Veyr, her father, stood before Maelor in the nursery corridor, bleeding but alive. Queen Elowyn hid baby Aurelia in a servant's arms. Cassian, a child then, tried to run toward them, his small wolf shadow snapping at Maelor's guards. Maelor stabbed his brother in the back, took the royal ring from his dying hand, and pressed it into the oath ledger. Then he turned toward the nursery. Aurelia heard her mother scream. The vision shifted. Royal girls gathered from branch houses, names burned out of ledgers, wrist marks scarred with black ash. The wolf crown locked in darkness and fed the names of daughters until it stopped answering anyone. Then the final image appeared. Mara as a child in servant gray, kneeling beside a bucket, while Maelor passed behind her without knowing she was the blood he had failed to erase. The vision ended. The chamber was silent. Maelor's face had lost all color. Cassian's voice was low. You murdered my uncle. Maelor stared into the red water. I saved Veyrhold from a child's throne. Aurelia stepped closer. You slaughtered children to keep one. He looked at her then. No mask. Only hatred. You think blood makes you worthy? No, she said. That stopped him. Aurelia looked at the 7 girls behind her. Blood made us dangerous to you. Surviving made us witnesses. The wolf crown lowered its head to the moon water. A final line appeared across the basin. The throne may not be claimed while its heirs are unnamed. The crown chain above the basin snapped. Upstairs, the black wolf throne cracked again. Maelor stumbled back. No. The witnesses spoke together. Name them. Maelor's jaw locked. The red water rose. It wrapped around his bleeding hand, not drowning him, not burning him, forcing the truth to the surface. Aurelia did not look away. One by one, Maelor named them. Aurelia Veyr, Maelor Veyr, Maelor Veyr, Aurelia Veyr, Sabrina Veyr, Evelis Veyr, Tyra Veyr, Aurelia Veyr. Then more. Girls who had not survived. Girls who had been moved. Girls sold into ward houses. Girls renamed as servants in distant estates. Girls sealed in sleep beneath old wolf chapels. With every name, the chamber shook. With every name, the wolf crown grew brighter. With every name, Aurelia felt the stolen kingdom becoming less clean and more true. When Maelor finished, he was shaking. The wolf crown stepped down from the basin. It did not bite him again. That would have been too quick. Instead, the moonwater rose around his wrists and hardened into silver chains. Maelor stared at Aurelia. You cannot rule this. She met his eyes. Not tonight. The witnesses quieted. Cassian looked at her. So did the 7 girls. Aurelia lifted her bleeding wrist and pressed it to the oath basin. I will not take a throne while children are still hidden under false names, she said. I will not let the crown use our survival to pretend the kingdom is healed. No one sits the wolf throne until every erased heir is found, every witness freed, and every oath Maelor wrote in stolen blood is opened. The oath chamber answered, accepted. Above them, the black wolf throne split fully in two. The sound tore through the palace. And far beyond the loyalty hall, in old servant wings, locked ward houses, and distant noble estates, hidden royal scars began to glow. Across Veyrhold, not all at once, on a on. In the lower servant wing, a scullery maid dropped a copper pot as silver light burned through the ash mark on her wrist. In a distant ward house, a girl locked in a tower woke screaming, as the scar she had been told was a sickness opened like a moonlit eye. In the western estates, a stable child stared at his sister's glowing wrist while their guardian shouted for iron gloves. The oath chamber showed all of it in the red moon water. Aurelia watched the faces appear and disappear across the basin, each one young, frightened, alive. More hidden heirs, more erased blood, more children Maelor had not killed because a living prisoner could still be used. Her hand tightened on the stone edge. Lysera stood beside her, pale but steady. There are more of us. Maelor, chained by moonwater, laughed under his breath. Cassian turned on him. You find this amusing? No. Maelor lifted his head. His eyes were red with pain, but his hatred remained sharp. I find it useful. You have opened every buried claim in the kingdom. By sunrise, every ambitious house will seize the child it holds and call that child true heir. You have not freed Veyrhold, Aurelia. You have thrown it into a succession war. The words hit the chamber hard because they carried danger, not empty threat. Aurelia looked at the basin again. Some children were being hidden. Some were already being dragged. In one vision, a noblewoman slapped a glowing wrist and hissed, "Cover it!" In another, a priest ran toward a chapel crypt with a knife. Cassian saw it and moved for the stairs. We send riders now. Maelor smiled. Too late. The wolf crown snarled. Aurelia looked at the silver beast. Can the crown find them? The crown's eyes burned moon-white. Find, yes. Choose, no. Aurelia understood. The crown could reveal blood. It could not decide who owned it. She turned to the 7 girls. No one leaves under another person's claim. Not me, not you, not any hidden child. Lysera's gaze hardened. Then we make the first law before the houses make theirs. Cassian looked at Aurelia. In the loyalty hall, before everyone. Maelor's smile faded. Good. Aurelia stepped toward him. You come too. I am chained. The kingdom should see what chained you. They returned from the oath chamber with Maelor bound in silver moonwater, the wolf crown at Aurelia's side, Cassian beside her, and 7 living royal girls behind them. The loyalty hall had changed. No one stood where they had stood before. Nobles had retreated from the throne as if the broken black stone might bite them next. Guards clustered near the pillars, uncertain who commanded them. Servants watched from the far arches, many with hands pressed over their mouths. The oath ledger still burned on the floor, pages turning by themselves. When Aurelia emerged, the hall fell silent. She did not climb the throne steps. She stopped before them. Maelor was forced to kneel on the marble where she had knelt earlier. The reversal was so sharp the court seemed afraid to breathe around it. Aurelia lifted her bleeding wrist. Every hidden heir with the wolf and Sunscar is under witness, she said. No house may claim them. No priest may cut them. No noble may hide them. No one may force their oath, marriage, blood, name, or crown. A noble lord shouted. You have no authority to command that. The wolf crown looked at him. He went silent. Aurelia's voice stayed clear. I am not commanding as queen. I am speaking as the first-named witness Maelor failed to erase. If any house holds a royal child, bring them to the loyalty hall alive, unbound, and named before moonset. Lady Seraphine stepped forward, face composed again, but eyes furious. And if 2 heirs claim the throne? Aurelia looked at her. Then the throne waits. A shock moved through the room. Seraphine's mouth tightened. A kingdom cannot wait. A stolen kingdom did. The words landed. Cassian's wolf shadow moved beside Aurelia, no longer muzzled, but still scarred by frost. It lowered its head, not as submission, but as warning. Then the oath ledger opened to a clean page. New words burned across it. No crown before names. The hall trembled. Accepted. Maelor snarled from his knees. You think waiting saves you? Waiting gives enemies time. Aurelia looked down at him. No. Waiting gives children time to stop being weapons. For the first time, Maelor had no answer. Then the moon-glass ceiling darkened. A horn sounded outside the palace. Not one of Maelor's horns. A border horn. Cassian turned sharply. A guard ran into the hall, breathless. My princess, armed riders at the east gate. Lord Veylric Thorn claims the throne is empty and demands custody of all female heirs under emergency blood law. Seraphine's face shifted. Too quickly, Aurelia saw it. Thorn. Cassian looked at Seraphine. Your father. The hall tightened around her. Seraphine lifted her chin. My father protects order. The wolf crown's lips pulled back from its teeth. Cassian's voice was cold. Your father knew the heirs were alive. Seraphine said nothing. That was answer enough. Outside, the horn sounded again. This time wolves howled with it. Not royal wolves. House wolves. Aurelia looked toward the palace doors, then at the 7 girls behind her. Fear moved through them, but none stepped back. The first attack had come from the throne. The next would come from the houses that had profited from it. Aurelia picked up the oath ledger from the floor. It burned her palm. She held it anyway. Open the doors, she said. Cassian stepped closer. They came armed. So did the truth. The great doors of the Loyalty Hall swung open. Cold moonlight flooded in. Beyond the steps, Lord Veylric Thorn waited with riders, priests, and chained wolf shadows at his back. In his hand, he held a silver collar small enough for a child. He looked past Cassian. Bast Maelor. Straight at Aurelia. Return the girls, he called, or I will name you the rebellion Maelor failed to bury. Aurelia lifted the burning oath ledger. The wolf crown stood beside her and growled. Behind her, 7 forgotten princesses stepped into the moonlight, and every hidden scar in the kingdom burned brighter. Lord Veylric Thorn stood at the palace steps with a child-sized silver collar in his hand. That was the first thing Aurelia saw. Not the riders behind him. Not the chained wolf shadows snapping at the moonlight. Not the priests carrying black oath hooks or the noble banners lifted in the cold wind. The collar, small enough for Aurene, small enough for any hidden royal child whose wrist had begun to glow tonight. Aurelia felt the 7 girls behind her go still. Cassian moved 1 step forward, sword lowered but ready. His unchained wolf shadow stood beside him, pale and scarred from the broken curse. Silver eyes fixed on Veylric with a hatred too old for words. Veylric smiled at them from the bottom of the steps. He was tall, silver-haired, elegant in a black thorn cloak lined with white wolf fur. Seraphine had inherited his beauty and his coldness. He looked less like a man coming to rescue order and more like a man coming to collect property. Return the girls, Veylric called again. The throne is broken. The king stands accused. The heirs are unstable. Under emergency blood law, noble houses may hold royal claimants until succession is settled. Aurelia lifted the burning oath ledger. No crown before name, she said. Veylric's smile thinned. A sentence written by frightened paper does not make law. The wolf crown growled. The riders behind him shifted uneasily. Maelor laughed from where he knelt in silver moonwater chains inside the hall. Careful, Veylric. The crown bites. Veylric did not look at him. You let it bite you because you starved it poorly. The hall went cold. Aurelia turned toward Maelor. For once, the false king looked surprised. Cassian's voice dropped. You knew. Veylric finally looked at him. Of course I knew. Every throne feeds on something, Prince. Maelor fed his on hidden daughters. Your father fed his on silence. Your future would have fed on Seraphine's womb and whatever child we permitted her to bear. Seraphine's face went pale. Not from shame. From exposure? Aurelia looked at her. You knew he planned this. Seraphine's hands shook beneath her pearl sleeves. I knew he had safeguards. Safeguards? Lysara snapped. He brought collars for children. Veylric raised the small silver collar. A kingdom survives by controlling dangerous blood. Aurelia stepped onto the top stair. The wolf crown moved with her. Then say it before witness, she said. Veylric's eyes narrowed. Aurelia held the oath ledger higher. Say why you came with collars. Say which child you meant to claim first. The wind died. The court behind her waited. The riders below waited. For the first time, Veylric's smile faded. Then he lifted his hand. Take Auren. The youngest girl made a small sound behind Aurelia. The thorn riders moved. Cassian's wolf shadow lunged forward with a roar, but Aurelia raised one hand. Stop. Cassian stopped. So did his wolf. Not because she commanded them, because they chose to hear her. The thorn riders laughed. Then the silver wolf crown opened its jaws and bit into the stone step. Moon-white fire shot down the staircase and struck the child-sized collar in Veylric's hand. The collar screamed. Not metal. A voice. A little girl's voice. Auren began to sob. A name burned across the collar. Vela Thorn, Royal Ward. Collared at age 6. Used to bind house wolf shadows. Veylric threw the collar down too late. The oath ledger opened to a new page. Thornhouse emergency blood law forged from stolen heir collars. Every rider behind Veylric looked at the collars hanging from their belts. One by one, the collars began to glow. Not empty tools. Names. Children's names. Servants' names. Ward names. Girls renamed, hidden, and kept as blood keys for noble houses. Aurelia's hand tightened on the ledger until the burning leather cut her palm. You did not come to protect heirs, she said. You came to collect the ones Maelor failed to break. Veylric's face hardened. And you think you can stop me with 7 frightened girls and a broken prince? Cassian stepped forward. No. His wolf shadow moved beside him, free at last. We stop you with witness. The palace steps cracked. The names burning on the collars lifted into the air, forming pale silhouettes behind the thorn riders. Children, girls, some alive, some not, all staring at Veylric. His men began backing away. Veylric shouted, Hold formation! But the house wolf shadows behind them did not obey. One by one, the chained shadows lowered their heads toward the children's names. The wolf crown spoke. Blood held by force cannot swear loyalty. The collars shattered. The chained wolf shadows broke free. Chaos erupted. Riders fell from saddles. Priests dropped oath hooks and ran. Thorn banners collapsed into the snow. Veylric drew his sword and charged up the steps, not at Cassian, at Aurelia. Cassian moved, but Aurelia was faster. She lifted the oath ledger with both hands. Veylric's blade struck the open pages. The ledger did not tear. It caught the sword like a mouth. Moon-white fire ran up the blade, across Veylric's arm, and into the black thorn seal at his throat. A hidden mark burned through his skin. Seraphine gasped behind Aurelia. Father, the mark was not noble. It was royal, not Veyr royale. Alda. Cassian stared. What is that? Veylric tried to pull away. The ledger held him. The wolf crown growled, and the answer burned across the open page. Veylric Thorn, descendant of the first crown steward. Sworn to guard heirs. Betrayed oath. Sold heirs. To false king. The court erupted. Aurelia understood then why Thorn had moved so quickly. His family had not merely profited from Maelor. They had been entrusted with protecting the hidden royal children. Instead, they had collared them. Seraphine stepped backward, shaking her head. No. We were meant to guard them. Veylric looked at his daughter with fury. We were meant to survive them. The ledger released his sword. Cassian struck it from his hand. Veylric fell to one knee. The free wolf shadows surrounded him, snarling. Aurelia looked down at him. Old Mara would have wanted him dead. Aurelia wanted names. Bind him, she said. Plain iron. No noble chains, no blood law. Cassian's guards moved. This time they obeyed without looking at Maelor. Veylric spat blood onto the snow. You think this ends with me? Every house has a hidden heir. Every house has a collar. If you open all of them, the kingdom will tear itself apart. Aurelia looked beyond him. Across the city, more scars burned in distant windows, towers, servant houses, and noble keeps. He was right about one thing. This was not over, but fear was no longer reason enough to stop. Aurelia turned back to the loyalty hall. Then every house comes under witness. Maelor laughed from inside. And who will enforce that? You refused the throne. Aurelia looked at the broken black wolf throne, then at the 7 girls, then at Cassian. I refused to sit on it, she said. I did not refuse to open it. The wolf crown lifted its head. The throne split wider behind Maelor. Beneath it, another chamber opened, not a trial chamber this time, but an archive lined with crown-sealed doors. On each door burned the name of a noble house. Thorn, Val, Morkant, Ravel, Blackmere, and dozens more. The crown had kept records, not just of Maelor, of everyone. Aurelia stepped back into the hall, the burning oath ledger in her hands. Open Thorn first. The first archive door unlocked, and from inside came the sound of children breathing in the dark. The Thorn archive opened. Children were breathing inside. That sound stopped the entire hall more effectively than any scream could have. Aurelia stood before the crown-sealed door with the oath ledger burning in her hands. Cassian came to her side, his freed wolf shadow low and watchful. The 7 girls stayed behind her, close together now, no longer hidden but not yet safe. Maelor knelt in moonwater chains near the broken throne. Veylrik Thorn was dragged inside, bound in plain iron. His perfect composure cracked at last. The archive door swung inward. Cold air spilled out. Inside were no treasure chests, no weapons, no royal banners, only beds. Small beds, rows of them. Children sat in the darkness with silver collars around their throats, wrists, or ankles. Some were awake. Some were sleeping too heavily to be natural. Some had glowing scars covered with rough cloth. Some stared at the open door as if light itself were a trick. Aurelia felt the old servant girl inside her go very still. She knew that look. Children who had learned not to hope too quickly. Lysara stepped forward, but Aurelia lifted one hand. Slowly, she whispered. The wolf crown entered first. The children flinched. The silver beast lowered itself to the floor. Not like a ruler, like a guard dog trying not to frighten the wounded. A little boy near the front touched the collar around his neck. Are we being moved again? Aurelia's throat tightened. No. His eyes shifted to Veylrik. Terror sharpened his face. Cassian saw it. He turned to the guards. Take Lord Thorn out of their sight. Veylrik laughed harshly. They are under Thorn custody. The oath ledger snapped open. Thorn custody false. Royal ward protection oath violated. The iron around Veylrik's wrists burned white. He stopped laughing. Aurelia knelt at the archive threshold so she was lower than the children. What is your name? She asked the boy. He stared at her as if names were traps. A girl beside him whispered, Do not tell. Names make collars tight. The wolf crown growled, not at the child, at the law. Aurelia placed her bleeding wrist on the floor. My name is Aurelia Veyr. They called me Mara so the crown would not find me. The children watched the scar glow. The boy swallowed. Tovin. The collar around his neck cracked. He gasped, touching it with both hands. Aurelia did not move toward him. Do you choose to leave? Tovin looked at the other children, then at the open door, then at Veylrik being dragged away. Yes? The collar fell off. The hall exhaled. One by one, names followed. Tovin, Mira, Solon, Arik, Vella, Yorin, Maire, Nessa, Koren. With each name, a collar cracked. With each choice, another child stepped from the Thorn archive into the loyalty hall alive. Aurelia did not count them as property. The ledger did. 29 children held under Thorn protection oath. 6 royal-blooded, 11 ward-blooded, 12 witness-blooded. All used to bind house wolf shadows, marriage leverage, border claims, or emergency succession law. Seraphine stood near the pillars, face white. Aurelia looked at her. Did you know? Seraphine's lips parted. Veylrik shouted from the guard line, Say nothing. Seraphine looked at him. Then at the children. For the first time, beauty left her face, and something human looked through. I knew there were wards, she said. I did not know there were collars. Lysara's voice was cold. You did not ask. Seraphine flinched. Good. Truth should leave a mark. Cassian stepped toward the archive shelves. There are ledgers. The back wall was lined with black books sealed in thornwax. The wolf crown bit the first lock open. Pages spilled out across the floor, showing payments, transfers, hidden names, and one repeated phrase, held until Crown decides. Aurelia picked up the nearest ledger. No more. The words were quiet, but the throne heard them. Every crown-sealed archive door in the chamber lit at once. Thorn, Val, Morkant, Ravel, Blackmere, dozens of houses. Maelor began to laugh again, lower this time, almost pleased. Now you understand. Every door you open creates another enemy. Every child you free weakens a house that will not forgive you. A queen would choose one battle at a time. Aurelia turned toward him. Then it is fortunate I refused to be crowned tonight. His smile faded. Cassian looked at her. Which door next? The court waited. The children waited. The 7 girls waited. Aurelia could feel the danger of the choice. Open too slowly, and houses would burn records. Open too quickly, and fear could turn to war. Then Tovin, the boy with the broken collar, stepped beside her. Open the one that is screaming, he whispered. Aurelia looked at the doors. One was shaking. Morkant. From behind it came not breathing, not crying, scratching. The sound of claws on wood. The wolf-crown's silver hackles rose. Cassian's wolf shadow snarled. Veylhold, still held by the guards, suddenly went still. Do not open Morkant. Aurelia faced him. Why? For once, he did not answer. My lord did. His voice came thin from the moonwater chains. Because Morkant did not keep children. The scratching behind the door grew louder. They kept the wolves. Aurelia's blood went cold. The Morkant archive door split down the center. A black wolf shadow forced one claw through the crack. Not spectral, not dead, starved, living, and behind it, hundreds of chained wolf eyes opened in the dark. The Morkant archive opened with a living growl. A black wolf shadow dragged itself through the cracked door, ribs sharp beneath smoke-thin fur, iron hooks buried in its spine. It was not a spirit. It was not a memory. It was alive, starved, and chained so tightly that every step tore sparks from the marble. Behind it, hundreds of wolf eyes opened in the dark. The loyalty hall froze. Even Maelor stopped smiling. Cassian stepped in front of Aurelia. Morkant kept royal wolves alive. Veylhold Thorn's face had gone gray. Not royal wolves. The first black wolf shadow lifted its head. A collar around its throat burned with one name. Cassian Veyr, first wolf shadow sample. Harvested under curse law. Cassian went still. His own wolf shadow snarled so violently the floor cracked beneath its paws. Aurelia understood too late. Morkant had not merely chained wolves. They had used pieces of living wolf shadows to build curses, false loyalty spells, oath rings, and noble protections. Cassian's wolf had not only been muzzled to attack her name, it had been harvested. The black wolf shadow crawled toward him and collapsed. Cassian knelt. His hand hovered over the starved beast, but he did not touch until the wolf lifted its head and pressed weakly into his palm. A memory burst across the hall. A young Cassian asleep after the nursery fire. Lord Morkant standing beside Maelor with silver hooks. A piece of the prince's wolf shadow cut away and sealed in black glass. Maelor saying, "If the boy remembers, make his own wolf punish him." The court recoiled. Cassian's face turned colder than death. Morkant's door burst wider. More wolf shadows spilled out, chained in rows. Royal wolves, servant wolves, house wolves, child wolves. Some had been used to strengthen noble sons. Some had been used to silence daughters. Some had no bodies left to return to. Aurelia lifted the oath ledger. "No more doors one by one," she said. Cassian looked at her. "Aurelia, they will burn the rest if we wait." The wolf crown growled in agreement. Maelor's voice cut across the hall. "Open them all, and you will drown in what you find." Aurelia looked at the 7 girls, the freed Thorn children, the starved Morkant wolves, the witnesses, Cassian's wounded shadow, and the broken throne that had swallowed too many names. Then we learned to breathe in truth. She pressed her bleeding wrist to the oath ledger. "Open every house archive under witness." The floor split in a circle around the throne. Every crown-sealed door unlocked at once. Thorn, Vale, Morkant, Ravel, Blackmere, Ashran, Solwyn, Caro. Dozens of names burned over the chamber as doors flew open. Children stumbled out. Wolf shadows crawled into moonlight, ledgers spilled across the marble. Collars shattered. Hidden heirs cried. Servants found their stolen names. Noble houses screamed as their clean histories tore open in public. The hall became chaos, but not war, because the wolf crown moved through the room like living law. It did not crown, it did not command. It stood before each child until they named themselves. It stood before each wolf until the wolf chose whether to leave. It bit any hand that reached to claim before asking. Aurelia did not climb the throne. She knelt. One by one, she asked names. Cassian stood beside her, guarding without owning. His wolf shadow, finally whole enough to choose, guarded the children nearest the Morcant door. Lysera led the 7 princesses in gathering the youngest. Seraphine, pale and shaken, cut collars from thorn wards with trembling hands. When one child flinched from her, she stopped and handed the knife to Aurelia instead. Good. Even repentance had to learn permission. By dawn, the Loyalty Hall no longer looked like a royal court. It looked like the inside of the kingdom's wound. Maelor knelt before the broken throne in moonwater chains. Veylric Thorn stood bound in plain iron. Chancellor Varric sat under guard beside the burned oath ledger. Lord Morcant, dragged from his hiding chamber beneath the west arch, was forced to watch as every wolf shadow he had harvested named him before witness. The black wolf throne remained split in two. The silver wolf crown stood on the lower step in wolf form, blood and moonlight on its jaws. A noble lord finally shouted, "Then who rules?" The question echoed. Every frightened eye turned to Aurelia. That was the trap. Not Maelor's. The crown's. If she sat now, the court would use her survival to close the wound. They would say the rightful princess had returned, the false king was chained, the hidden children were freed, and therefore the story was finished. But the room was full of children still learning their own names. Aurelia stood slowly. "I do not take the throne today." Shock passed through the hall. Maelor laughed weakly. "Coward." Aurelia looked at him. "No. Witness." The wolf crown lowered its head. She lifted the oath ledger. No crown before names, no heir claimed by any house, no child collared for succession, no wolf shadow cut, harvested, muzzled, or bound to protect a lie. No marriage contract involving royal blood stands until the person named in it speaks freely under witness. The ledger burned white. "Accepted." Cassian stepped forward. "Until every archive is read, every hidden heir named, every wolf restored where restoration is chosen, and every false oath broken, the throne remains empty." A lord sneered. "And you, prince? Will you not claim regency?" Cassian looked at Aurelia first, then at the children, then at his wolf. "No," he said. "I will guard witness. I will not govern it." Aurelia felt the words settle into her chest. Not love yet. Something rarer in that hall. Restraint. Maelor strained against his chains. "You will tear Veyrhold apart." Aurelia looked around the Loyalty Hall. Broken doors, freed children, wounded wolves, servants weeping over recovered names, nobles staring at the records that had kept them rich. "No," she said. "You already did. We are only refusing to call the pieces whole." The silver wolf crown stepped toward her. For a moment, everyone thought it would become a crown again. It did not. It pressed its muzzle to her scarred wrist. Then it turned and lay down before the broken throne, guarding the empty seat from anyone who tried to take it too soon. By sunrise, messengers rode to every estate, chapel, and border hold. Not to announce a queen. Not yet. They carried the first witness law. Bring every hidden heir alive and unbound. Open every house archive. Release every wolf. Shadow by name and choice. No throne until every stolen child is counted. Aurelia walked to the palace doors. The sky beyond the steps was pale with dawn. The kingdom below waited in terror, grief, and hope. Cassian came to stand beside her, leaving space between them. "May I ask you something?" he said. Aurelia looked at him. "Not if it is about the throne." "It is not." His wolf shadow lowered itself behind him, no longer muzzled, no longer forced to attack her name. Cassian's voice softened. "When this is done, may I ask who you want to be when no one is naming you for power?" Aurelia looked down at her scarred wrist. Mara had been a survival name. Aurelia was a buried name. Neither was fully a choice yet. So she answered honestly, "Ask me when every child has their name back." Cassian bowed his head. "Then I will wait." Behind them, the wolf crown guarded the empty throne. Before them, Veyrhold woke to the truth that its lost princess had returned, but not to be used as a clean ending. She had knelt as a servant. She rose as Aurelia Veyr. And when the false king's crown bit his hand, it did more than name her blood. It opened the kingdom's mouth.